What's going on, traders? Hope everybody had a great day. It is Thursday, July 6th, and we are looking at the S&P Spider ETF here on the daily chart. Before we get into our analysis and plans for tomorrow, don't forget that this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. So the markets were down today. We had a nice reset and a gap fill to the downside. Markets were down about $3.50, about 0.78%. Final print coming in at 439.66. And I personally think that this, move to the downside was very much needed. Gave us a little bit of a reset here on all the charts, as things were definitely a bit frothy as we were hanging out right here above that 445 area and could not push through to the upside. But really nice failed break setup here on the daily on this trend line that we were watching as well. And I love these setups where they tried to push it down, could not, recaptured, and then we saw a really nice move to the upside, which we will go over here in a moment as we review some of today's price action, and then we'll get into some areas that I am looking at for tomorrow, and see what we might have in store for the bulls and the bears, and we'll come up with a plan for each. Alright, so I don't really have too much more to go over on the daily chart. Pretty simple here with this trend line that we will continue to be watching, as well as the gap that we pretty much closed in the middle of. In yesterday's video, we were talking about I wasn't sure that the bears would be able to actually fill this entire gap. They were, but I was talking about the fact that we may just only fill halfway of the gap, and we didn't get that, but we ended up closing halfway in the gap, which I thought was pretty interesting. Encouraging sign, only about 20 cents or so above the daily 9, but we were able to close above that daily 9 moving average, which I think was a encouraging sign for the bulls overall. So, tomorrow we'll certainly be watching this swing low and this trend line to see if we actually can get, if the bears can actually get some type of confirmation under this. Otherwise, it's all for naught for the bears. But either way, we will be prepared with a plan. I'm not exactly sure what time. Let me see this here. Yeah, it was a bit early. There was a pretty nice move in Globex. To the downside, it really started. Unless you bought puts right at the open. Let's go a little bit closer in here. Where did we actually ended up opening way lower than what I was about to say. But either way, we were talking about this 441 being the key level that the bulls needed to hold, defend that gap. And once we did break it, the selling really started coming in. It wasn't too actionable in the sense that, personally, I don't buy at least options right at the open. But a great futures trade there if you were awake and able to take advantage of it. Just a cascade of selling coming down, bringing us right into this trend line. And what I was talking about earlier, that failed break setup, we were watching this trend line here, and there were a couple of ways you could have potentially played this long. I sat out this whole move and I only played the long side, but you can see what happened here as we came down into this 437. That was a direct long, which I personally took on futures and on some 438 calls. But certainly the safer trade was this failed breakdown, pushed down, recaptured the trend line. That triggers our long here, back about 437, 60 or so, 55 area, triggers your long, and then pushed back up. And a great example of the old adage, from failed moves come fast moves. This was about 25 points or so on the futures, and my options got it was about 75% win on those 438 calls. So I loved playing this today, and it was a great day. So let's look at some things that are going to need to be accomplished for the Bulls and the Bears tomorrow, and we could potentially come up with some plan based on these things. First main thing, of course, that's going to be sticking out to me is that 441 area that triggered this breakdown. That is the top of the gap that we are sitting in the middle of right now. There is a chance we could stay now in the middle of this gap, but we'll go here and look at, again, this previous consolidation range that we had on a different chart, but really, they're going to need to recapture and get back into this consolidation balance zone, and we'll see if tomorrow they maybe start to establish another one in between 441 and 448, 438.40 area tomorrow, which is totally possible. Or do we get a Friday rally? I think the odds are kind of low for that, being a short week, and probably a lot of big traders are still just now getting back into the normal swing of things after the holiday week, but we'll have to see what we get. All right, so let's go into our next chart where we've been watching these balance zones. A few things that I want to point out to everybody that I am looking at, and then we will close it out. All right, so let's see if we can get anything from the fibs here that we have been watching. Right now hanging out right at this 38.2 extension, and I would say that's encouraging here to be holding this, but really we were talking about that 441, and here that 23.6 extension at 421. 2021 really needs to be recaptured for the Bulls to see that further upside back into this swing high area. My targets really, from the bigger picture, have not changed, in the sense I'm still eyeing if we can really get over this swing high in that 445. I'm still watching 450, so that's ultimately my short-term goal, and we will see if we get it. But of course, we just take it level to level and one step at a time. All right, so let's go and look into our other chart, which has our balance zones drawn out here. A couple of things I think that are worth pointing out. Let me get a little bit further back. 5 days. Let's do 15. Okay. Let's move this over. There we go. All right, so the first thing I wanted to point out was this previous balance zone that we were watching and spent some time in, and that, I always talk about how I like to trade these balance zones, these consolidation areas, and I was, to be honest with you, I was surprised that we came back into this liquidity. If anything, I really thought that we may just come down into the top of the balance, maybe to this second area here before, and then seeing the Bulls come in. But they were able to push it right down into the 50% retracement of the balance zone, but really perfectly lined up here, right at that 437, where I took that direct long trade, just sat on my hands and waited. I kind of mentioned that I'm not too interested, in the short trades, as overall bigger picture. we still are very bullish. And so I sat out the short, and it was a little tough, of course, for me to go short when the markets had already opened up down so much. And as I was saying earlier, there's sure as shit, no way that I'm going to be chasing or just buying puts right at the open. Although in this case, certainly it would have worked. But I don't do that on options. I do if I do anything like that, it's usually in the futures, and I won't be buying at the open. I would already be in before the opening bell. So I just love how this area was really supported. We came back up and then got back over the range. So for tomorrow, there's a few things I'll be watching at, and then I want to see here if, like I was saying, if they try to put in a new balance here and move just sideways for a little bit. Totally a possibility. But we'll have to see. Either way, the main things that I'll be watching, the bears, there could be a potential short trade if we do start to clip back underneath this 438.35 area, start breaking back below into this previous balance. Then, actually, I'm going to extend this a little bit. Then if we start to do that, there is a chance that we could see more downside back into this 437. Is that a trade that I'm willing to participate in? No, not really. Just because, again, like I said, I'm, bigger picture, we're still bullish. So, yeah, you get $1 here. That's, depending on what contracts you're playing. That could be a nice trade. That might be a nice little scalp on futures for, 5-10 points, which is still a great trade. But I'd potentially be looking, if we did come down, I'd probably be sitting on my hands waiting to see if we would get some type of a double bottom set up right here, again on that 437 area. The only thing, it is a little bit more high risk. Taking that direct long this time, since it has been tested so many times. So if anything, I might not do a direct long if we do come into that area, but more so looking for that a failed break. If we come back below, recapture, and then it gives us that signal for the long, just like I was talking about earlier when we were looking at how price reacted to that trend line that we were watching. But ultimately, the bulls need to defend this 439, 438.94, we'll call it 95, 438.35 here. As long as they defend that, we still have that potential for further retracement back into this previous, current balance zone. But first things first, we have to get over 440, right? That's pretty much where we stalled out today. So I'll be looking to see if we do get back over 440 and we are showing some nice bids stacking up on the level 2 and depth of market. And then looking for that push back into that 441 area and hopefully getting back over that zone. We talked about 441, I think it was 21 on the fibs. So really, again, I don't really do support and resistance too much. So you could just say that 441 to 441.40 needs to be recaptured now for the bulls to have a chance to rally back into that 50% retracement here at 442. 41, 45 area, 50 area, right here. Okay, so if they can do that, then we'll look to this upper part of the range here and right into that 443.62 area, and basically we can bring that up another 20 cents or so, or another 40 cents or so to that 440 area, which we were struggling at. And needs to be broken for that further move to 445. And if we get some nice closes or confirmation over that, then we're really looking nice for that ultimate target that I was talking about. So, you know, again, we do have a potential short trade here. You know, if we do break here, you know, probably 430, you know, 435 puts might work. Just, you know, of course, just make you look at your volume and your delta, and you know, usually SPY options are pretty liquid, so it'd be probably no problem if we start to break here, even playing just at the money puts for that potential dollar move here, and you know, taking most off at 437, because you never know, of course, if it will be broken or not, and then seeing if that's broken, and then to come back down to this bottom range here. So yeah, you could do the 438 or you could do the 435, so it's totally up to you. Just you know, whatever you'd like. And for the bulls here, as long as this 438.35 is really supported and we're hanging out in this area, I'll still be looking for longs, but probably on that 440 calls, and certainly above that. Might just play at the money there, even if we are above. But you know, 441 calls could work, or 442 as well. But the real confirmation that the bulls would need to be looking for, besides getting over that 440, is over that 441, you know, 38 area. So we'll be watching that as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Simple plan. I hope that the video is bringing some value into your trading, and if it is, would really appreciate a thumbs up. Helps push out the video to a wider audience on the YouTube algorithm, and a subscription would mean the world to me as well. And it's just a simple click, and really you know, makes this worth it for me and gives me some encouragement. What do you think we're going to get tomorrow? We're going to get that Friday trend day, more consolidation. Are we going to drop down to 400? Let me know in the comments. Would love to hear everyone's point of view. But that's it for me. I hope everybody has a great rest of your evening, and let's trade smart, safe. We're just closing out this short week, so you know, if you've had a profitable week, no reason to press on the gas too much, unless we see some extraordinary circumstances that it looks like we're gonna have a real nice trend day or something like that. And then, you know, in that case, you will have to assimilate that data on the fly, and then say, okay, here's a day where I want to, you know, I want to push the gas. But if it seems more inconsistent and choppy, you know, one trade, lay off the gas, no big deal, and maybe call it early and start to enjoy your weekend. All right, that's it. Shark signing out. Have a good one.